Good morning, everyone. For today's devotional, we are going to read from the book of Psalm 39. I said, I will watch my ways and keep my tongue from sin. I will put a muzzle on my mouth while in the presence of the wicked. I remained utterly silent, not even saying anything good, but my anguish increased. My heart grew hot within me. While I meditated, the fire burned. Then I spoke with my tongue. Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days, and let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom. In vain they rush about, heaping up wealth, without knowing whose it will finally be. But now, Lord, what do I look for? My hope is in you. Save me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the scorn of fools. I was silent. I would not open my mouth, for you are the one who has done this. Remove your scourge from me. I am overcome by the blow of your hand. When you rebuke and discipline anyone for their sin, you consume their wealth like a moth. Surely everyone is but a breath. Hear my prayer, Lord. Listen to my cry for help. Do not be deaf to my weeping. I dwell with you as a foreigner, a stranger, as all my ancestors were. Look away from me, that I may enjoy life again before I depart and am no more. So this psalm deals with quite a few things. The first thing we see from the stanza 1 to 3, David is dealing with something that is bothering him. He wants to speak, but he is keeping his mouth shut because there are people. He has company. The wicked people are there, and he doesn't want to say anything because there is something that is bothering him, and if he says it, the wicked might misconstrue it, might misinterpret, and he doesn't want to say a complaint in front of them to God. In verse, so this part tells us that how we should not, in our doubts, in our worries, when we are impatient, we should not talk to unbelievers, but bring it to God, all our complaints, all our problem, all our doubts, rather than there is a risk for us to sin with our mouth. From verse 4 onwards, he talks about the brevity of life, the fleeting nature of life, how life is so short, and he goes similar to the wisdom literature, which in Ecclesiastes, where the writer is saying that life is nothing but a breath, it's like a vapor. So similarly, he's saying, he's asking Lord that show me my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. This is not because he's suffering, that he wants to know how long he has to endure, how long he has to suffer, so that he can be, he can taken away from the suffering. That's not the thing he's trying to refer here. He's trying to talk about he wants to know the brevity of his life, how life is so short, so that he's not focused on the problems of life, because he's trying to here say that because life is so short and there is nothing to depend upon, that he says that you have made my days a mere handbreadth. Then he said everyone goes around like a mere phantom. In vain they rush about, heaping up wealth, without knowing whose it will be. It will finally be. So he's saying that whatever purpose, whatever we're trying to seek, or whatever we're trying to do with the life goals and achievements, when we see in that perspective, it might look like, okay, my life is meant for this, like I want to be whoever it is in our career, we want to do this and that. And sometimes when we look in a very limited perspective of life, it might seem like this is very important, this is the only thing I can depend on, my identity depends upon that thing. But here the writer is trying to tell us that because of fleeting nature of thing, and everything, whatever we try to heap up our wealth or reputation or name, power, whatever, this is all temporary, and that he's trying to, then in the next verse he goes on to say, but now Lord, who do I look for? When he understands the basically the how life is very short and there is nothing that is permanent in that, he is saying, my hope is in you. So he's trying to say that he depends on God because he's the only one who is permanent, who is constant, who is unchanging, who is eternal. Unlike things in our life, unlike goals that we pursue, unlike things that we pursue, then this reminds me of something that sometimes in our life we are always occupied with things because we are always worried about career to make, or take care of the family or anything. And the enemy somehow likes this fact that he wants us to be constantly occupied, not to think of the matter of eternity. Like here David is wanting to know from God how many days he has left, so that he wants to understand how short his life is. Similarly, if we keep a focus on that there is an eternity there, and that the life over here is limited, that the significance we give to the things of this earth, to the things over here, is not so much as compared to the eternity that there is an eternity that we either go to heaven or go to hell. So that the enemy doesn't want us to focus. He wants to keep us constantly amused, or sometimes constantly entertained with all the social media, all the entertainment, all the movies, all the shows. He wants us to be constantly amused or entertained. The word amusement is derived from word muse. The word muse means to be entertained or to be preoccupied, and amusement means not thinking. Amusement generally refers to not thinking. So he doesn't want us to think, and he wants us to constantly be occupied with things, so that we don't think about the purpose of our life. We don't think about the eternity, where we will be, what we are doing for the eternity, how is our walk with God. So the enemy wants us to be constantly occupied. So in this, he's also now David turns from there to the discipline that he is receiving from God from his transgression, and he's saying, but not save me from all my transgression. Do not make me the scorn of fools. I was silent, I would not open my mouth, for you are the one who has done this. Remove your scourge from me. I am overcome by the blow of your hand. When you rebuke and discipline anyone for their sin, you consume their wealth like a moth. Surely everyone is but a breath. He's talking about because the heavy-handedness of the discipline of God, he is overwhelmed by that. He is saying, save me from my transgression, and he doesn't want to. It is so difficult for him to deal with those that he is pleading to God that do not remove that mercy, do not remove your grace. And although this psalm ends up with a very sad note, where he says, hear my prayer, Lord, listen to my cry for help, do not be deaf to my weeping. I dwell with you as a foreigner, a stranger, as all my ancestors. Look away from me, that I may enjoy life again before I depart and I am no more. He's sounding similar to Job in the book of Job, chapter 7, in which he says, what is mankind that you make so much of them, that you give them so much attention, that you examine them every morning and test them every moment? Will you never look away from me or let me alone even for an instant? Similar way, David is also saying, because he is being disciplined for the sin, he is asking God that look away, so that I can smile again, so I can enjoy my life again. But we all know that if there is anything else that give us the completion, if there is anything that give us a meaning to life, and if there is anything that will give us the true joy, is our walk with God, our communion with God. So although this psalm, he's in despair, his psalmist is in despair, and he's talking about how his life is in so much trouble, and he's been disciplined because he says that in this, I was silent, I would not open my mouth, for you are the one who has done this. So He knows that it is God who is disciplining him, but yet he's crying because he's in so much pain, and it is understandable because sometimes we can find it difficult where we say, no God, what do you want from me? The same way he is also in despair and he's talking all those things. But what we gain from this psalm is to understand that, to keep our mind in an eternal perspective, to make us see that life is very, very small, very it's just fleeting. Time goes by, we don't even realize. Years goes by, we don't even realize. And that you never know what is there for tomorrow, as Jesus talks about, as in the book of James there is a mention that we don't know about tomorrow. So let us keep our focus on God. Let us keep our focus on eternal things, on the heaven, on the home that we have. In verse 12 he's talking about, I dwell with you as a foreigner. It's similar to that in New Testament, in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 11, he says, dear friends, I urge you as a foreigner and exile to abstain from sinful desire which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us. So he's saying that we should live on this earth like foreigners, and David is also saying, I am a stranger as all my ancestors were. Our home is not here, our home is with God, eternal heaven. So accordingly we should live our lives, accordingly we should focus, accordingly we should understand that our goals and wishes and all those things are there, but they are not eternal, they are fleeting. Life can change, but God is eternal and God is unchanging. Thank you, church.